Hey guys, welcome back to another video from Regar Australia. Today we're talking about lithium batteries and what do all the numbers mean. So if you've been looking at a lithium battery for your golf cart, you will have noticed some numbers, voltages, amp hours, perhaps some discharge current ratings, but we're going to talk about what those numbers actually mean today. Starting with the voltage. So if you're looking at a lithium battery for your golf cart, it's crucial that you select one that is the right voltage. Golf carts nowadays tend to mostly be 48 volts. Some older models are 36 volt, and some of the more premium options are now running at 70 or 76 volts. But most Club Car, Yamaha, or E-Z-Go models that are relatively late model are all going to be 48 volts. So if you're looking for a lithium battery to upgrade in your golf cart, you will of course select the 48 volt. When we say 48 volt, most lithium options are actually 51 volt, so they run at a slightly higher nominal voltage. So your golf cart has a nominal voltage of 48 volt, but you can safely run a 51 or 51.2 volt lithium battery. So it'll be a slight increase in voltage, which will give you a performance increase. But yeah, so that 48, 51 volt, we're referring to exactly the same sort of operating system. Next, we're going to talk about amp hours. So amp hours refers to the amount of energy that's stored. So more amp hours doesn't give you more power, it gives you longer run time. So if you've got a let's just say a 60 amp hour 51 volt battery and 120 amp hour 51 volt battery, in theory the 120 amp hour battery would offer exactly twice the run time of the smaller capacity battery. I say in theory because the heavier batteries are a bit heavier, so there is a bit more energy physical energy stored that requires more energy to carry. So therefore, you do lose a small bit of range with the added weight. But yeah, as we said, double the capacity in amp hours is double the runtime. So in selecting what capacity is right for you, that really comes down to the way you're using the vehicle and what the vehicle is. So if you're playing once a week at a relatively short flat golf course and you're able to charge between uses, then probably a 60 amp hour or an 80 amp hour setup like that is probably going to be fine for you. But then other people that are using it at a long hilly course, they might want to go for a high capacity option. The other thing would be modification. So if your golf cart is just a regular golf cart on regular wheels, the smaller capacity batteries are typically good for a round of golf. But if you've got an upgraded controller, or if you've got really big wheels and tires, that puts extra load on the system and requires extra energy to move the vehicle, and therefore you will consume more battery, and therefore a larger capacity, larger amp hour battery is probably more suitable for you. So with these golf carts here, we've actually got some slightly different setups to what is normal. This Tempo here, we've increased the operational voltage from 48 volt up to 70 volt. So we've upgraded this with a 70 volt battery, which is an EcoBat. Just there you can see 70 volt, 105 amp hour. And we've done that by upgrading the controller to a Navitas TAC 2, and it's also got an upgraded 5 kilowatt motor. So the higher voltage combined with the increased capacity gives this golf cart both quite a lot of range and also a lot of speed. So it's got a lot of torque and a lot of top speed with the upgraded motor and controller. So much so that we've fitted some disc brakes to the front to ensure that it stops. Then in this E-Z-GO here, it's got the original motor, but it does have the Navitas controller, and it's got a 51 volt, 105 amp hour Voltrac Pro battery, and a Navitas controller. The RXVs are already AC with their motor, which means they're fairly efficient and don't really require a motor upgrade in order to travel at high speed. They're quite efficient and they're quite powerful, so the battery and controller alone for that, without the motor upgrade, was able to increase the performance, both speed and range, by a pretty significant margin. Then in this Yamaha Drive 2 here, we've also got the Navitas with the TAC2 600 amp controller and 4 kilowatt motor, and it's also got a Voltrac 105 amp hour battery, slightly older model, but yeah, 105 amp hour, so plenty of range, plenty of power. The final thing we're going to talk about is discharge current. So this is starting to get a little bit more complicated now, but if you're looking at a lithium battery for your golf cart, it's important that you select one that's capable of discharging to meet your current energy current requirements. So you might find with a cheaper, smaller capacity battery, it doesn't allow you to draw as much energy from it as quickly. And if your golf cart is upgraded with, say, a Navitas controller or big wheels and tires, it's putting extra load on the system, that is going to require a higher discharge rate. So all I would say is that if you've got a lifted golf cart with an upgraded controller, or even a 4-seater or a 6-seater, you're probably going to want to choose a battery that has a higher rate of continuous discharge. So the specification you'd be looking for would be continuous current discharge, and you probably want to choose something, I don't know, 150 to 200 amps continuous. Any less than that, well, you also need to look at peak as well. So you'd want to know that it can discharge a peak of, say, 400 amps, something along those sort of lines. If you're looking at a battery that has a 100 amp continuous rating, and you're putting that in an upgraded golf cart, you're potentially going to run into some problems. Just one last thing before we go, charging. So charge current is actually a really important one. So let's just say you had a 100 amp hour lithium battery and you had a 20 amp hour charger. That means it's going to take 5 hours at 20 amps to charge that battery. So your charge time for a 100 amp battery with a 20 amp charger would be 5 hours, as one example. Now, higher charge current is not always a positive thing. So you would think that obviously everybody wants their battery to charge quickly, so why not have a 30 amp charger? Therefore, it's going to charge significantly, or 50% faster than a 20 amp charger. There's a few reasons why it's not always a good option. The first is that if you're charging via these receptacles, they're typically only rated at around 15 amps. Any higher than that, you're going to generate extra heat, and heat and plastics mixed together is not typically a good combination. So you will usually want to use, say, a charger at somewhere between 12 and 16 amps, maybe up to 20. Even 20 is probably getting towards the maximum that we would suggest running through one of those receptacles. We have seen cases with 25 amp chargers actually melting the receptacles, and that's obviously not a good thing. The second reason is that say a 25 or 30 amp charger is significantly bigger than a 15 amp charger. So physically you're having to use a much bigger charger. That may not always be suitable particularly if it's a portable charger. What we tend to use and recommend is that for external chargers, where you are charging via this receptacle here, you're best to look for something probably around about 15 amps, give or take a couple of amps. Tends to be the best option. But if you're charging using an onboard charger, so if you're actually charging using